Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Fins Faithful podcast. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. I believe it's Monday. These days are running together. I hope everybody had a happy, healthy, safe 4th of July weekend with their family. Of course, we're always with you guys on YouTube. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe button, and also keep flooding the video comments. I love reading the comments after the show. I know Jason and even Sammy pops in there. We read the comments, and it also helps get the show noticed. But more importantly, it makes it fun for me to go back and look at the comments and respond to all you guys and in the chat and everything else. I know we were scheduled to have maybe a little bit of a different show. We kind of teased it, but the person we had on had to reschedule for Wednesday, so we'll switch it to them. But you still get us, our two beautiful faces. Leave me out of that. You tonight. We got a fun show. There wasn't only fireworks on 4th of July, but we had some fireworks with Asante Samuel SR. The corner that we're all the father of the corner who we're looking to maybe acquire and after July. We'll talk about that. We haven't, Jason and I and Sammy, we haven't touched on the Darren Waller trade, even though it's been a few days now. We'll get into that. But more importantly, we're going to get to the top 5. We got some cool graphics, top 5 guys that we think, not necessarily the top 5 best players on the team. Well, one of them could be, but 5 guys we think can take a huge leap forward this year and help this team. And pretty much they're all in positions of need for the Miami Dolphins. We got double the trouble here tonight. Not only do we have the Coles, Jason Sarney, but we got Finn Sammy, who's he's part of the family here now. Finn Sammy from Finn's TV. Fellas, how you doing tonight?
Happy 4th of July to everyone out there. Doing well, George, Sammy. Always a pleasure to join the screen with you, my friend.
Oh, like you said, fireworks all over. The fireworks have not ended today for Finn's Nation, so we're going to talk about that. It should be fun to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with the Darren Waller stuff. I don't know about you guys, but when I had my dream of Kyle Pitts, and everybody said no, they're moving away from Jonnu because they're wanting blocking tight end. Well, they ended up acquiring maybe the least blocking tight end since Mike Gesicki. Prototype 6'6", 250. Look, let's go over his career a little bit, his history. He had some substance abuse problems early in his career. He figured it out. Then everybody knows him when he signed with the Raiders. And then he had 2 big years in 2019, 2020, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, Pro Bowler. You're talking about athletic traits that very few tight ends possess. He was a big wide receiver in college. Then he went to the Giants, kind of up and down in 23. He was traded there, injuries. Then he retired. He decided he wanted to be a rapper, which, by the way, guys, I saw his rap stuff. It's not bad. He's not bad. But he comes from a music family. Little known fact, did you guys know that his great-grandfather was the great jazz artist Fats Waller? Did you guys know that?
No, I did not.
Yes. I was surprised when I read that. Yeah, that's a fact. Fats Waller. So I'm surprised they went this route. He's a guy who kind of retired, losing the passion for the game, but he has a great relationship with offensive coordinator.
Frank Smith.
Frank Smith, yeah. And he came out of retirement. Drew Rosenau said, he called him. Drew's his agent. Darren called him, said, hey, I want to come out of retirement and play for the Dolphins, and they made the trade happen. It's just one thing with the Dolphins. It's just another thing to me, without the plan. It's just like another thing that just doesn't line up with the plan. It's kind of like whatever the wind blows, they go with. I'm not saying it's a low risk move on paper, but I guess it caught me off guard. I don't understand it, but look, I'll talk the difference between him and Jonnu Smith, but let me bring you guys in. We'll start with you, Jason. Your thoughts when you heard the Waller trade and you had time to digest it.
Well, like everybody else, shocked because that was not anybody's bingo card. No one really expected Grier to dip into the retirement pool, but this is a Frank Smith makes sense kind of move. You have a guy who was able to coordinate the player in his 2 best seasons when they were together in Las Vegas with the Raiders. And basically what Chris Grier had done now in a positive sense is he's saved himself money at a position of a similar player. Obviously, Waller and Jonnu Smith, George, you'll dive into the exact differences, but similar in what you will ask for them from a productive standpoint, being a pass-catching tight end, not necessarily relying on them for blocking. Now, Jonnu Smith is a yak specialist. from my eyes and what I see. Darren Waller is a guy who gets a little bit more downfield before he receives the ball, and that's kind of his bread and butter. So, surprised. Initially, I was like, why couldn't we just, draft sign or trade for a blocking or a more hybrid tight end? But listen, this is a low risk, nil or high reward. Like I don't know if you're getting 80 catches, 800 yards, and 8 touchdowns, but if you literally split that in half, that's not bad for slitting a potential salary fractionalized. So not bad. Let's see what happens. But the Dolphins have done this a lot. They sign an Odell Beckham Jr., you sign a Will Fuller, you sign veteran players that you hope can be their peak self or a shell of it. But let's see what happens.
Yeah, J-Cat, before we get to you, Sammy, or do we have the conditions of the Giants' conditional pick? I didn't find any. I thought I read something, but I don't think I don't have them.
It's a swap of 6/7, but basically that's just to say something. They did something. There are probably so many clauses in that probably doesn't happen at the end of the day. But
it would probably only move up to be 1 round if something is met, like a reception total or snap total. Who knows? But I don't know.
That's basically to protect the Giants and don't look as fools as the guys. Okay. So it becomes a great player for the Dolphins. Yeah. And then they give it up for nothing.
Shout out to Cap. Cap said he read something. He's going to be back in.
I think it's a swap of 6/7, but basically something.
But but he's talking about the conditions. It's a conditional 6. Yeah. It's got to be a play cause. He has to be on the roster for a certain amount or play a certain percentage. Sin Blue. Yeah, we'll get into that towards the end. And guys, when we get to that, tell me what you think. And if we mention somebody or we don't mention anybody, go ahead and pop
write-in votes. We like writing votes.
Writing votes. Who do we like? And we'll have our bonus, and we'll let the chat also. Make sure if you're watching anywhere else, come on YouTube. Thumbs up, subscribe, comment, chat, all the good stuff to help the channel. I know it's annoying for us to say and ask, but it really does make a big difference. And it just shows, if you guys appreciate the work we do and how much it really work we put in just to put in one 30, 45-minute show, we appreciate it. So, I hate to keep asking. It's annoying. I get annoyed at myself for doing it, but kind of have to. All right, Sammy, your thoughts on Mr. Darren Waller?
Oh, to be honest, at first when it happened, it was like I thought it was a joke or something like that because, again, just the day before, the Minka Fitzpatrick for Ramsey trade was like, is this real? And then, again, is it real too? So, you okay, George?
Yeah, sorry. I was grabbing something. I'm leaving, Sammy. Take over.
But, at first I didn't like it. I said, why are you going to that don't work? This crazy. That guy basically gave up, retired, he's out. But then when you get into the details of basically, if it's true that he basically called his agent Drew House and said, maybe find me a way to get back to the Dolphins and they might be in the trade with the Giants and he ended in Miami. That's kind of encouraging if he feels motivated enough to play for the Dolphins and to play, for some familiar face that this might actually work. Basically, when the guy can play, there's no doubt about that. If the guy was in his prime, we were having a completely different conversation. But again, as I always say, too many ifs for me to be confident about it. But I didn't like it at first, but right now the Dolphins have nothing to lose. And it's not that the tight end free agent pool was vast, and you can say you had a lot of people who can choose, and you chose them. We chose Darren Waller. So it is what it is. It's a win-win for the Dolphins. If the guy hits, they did great. If he doesn't hit, they just move on. And he retires back, and he can continue his rapping career. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Pretty good. Have you guys seen the rap videos? Pretty good. Chad, have you guys seen it? He's not bad. Jason, I mean, is he following the footsteps of his great grandfather?
I saw 10 seconds, and the 10 seconds I saw wasn't cringe. Let's say that.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean.
I'm not in position to say he's a great rapper or anything like that. Yeah. A great musician or anything like that. But the 10 seconds I saw, I thought that wasn't. I was expecting the worst. I was expecting
it wasn't like Shaq.
It wasn't like that.
It wasn't like Shaquille O'Neal.
Actually, it was better than Shaq. I can give you that.
I hope Darren does better on the field than he does behind the mic. Let's just to say that.
Well, Cap, Jake likes Waller's second song more than the first. So you got to the second one.
I admittedly didn't get to the second one.
Wonder,
Well,
I didn't get to the second one.
I did not get to the second song. Sorry.
But I think that's cool that Fats Waller was his great grandfather. I mean, that's a big time job. I mean, I don't know how many people in the chat know who that is, but anyways, all right. So let's lose some viewers now. Let's talk about the difference here. The main difference for me and Jonnu is kind of like you said. I think you hit on it, Jason. More of a yak guy. I know the perception he was a great athlete, but Waller has more pop, more bursts, more down. He's more of a vertical threat. I mean, look, if you're expecting the same guy from the Oakland Raiders, no, he's 33. He took a year off. There's a question of how motivated is he, right? Because once you have your foot out the door and you come back, I mean, how motivated are you to play? Like, I mean, look, he still has to make the team. I don't think everybody said, oh, he's going to make let's see how he feels when he gets in camp and he's back in football. You got to do this.
It's not a given for him. Stop.
Say it again.
It's not a given that he's going to make the team.
Yes, I agree. And you got to love this game to play it. I mean, I know people say, oh, guys, just go through the no, you can't play this game going through the motion. So, again, he's more of a vertical. He's interesting in the red zone. I think he's really going to help the most. He's interesting. I think he takes away some of the stuff that I thought maybe NWI would kind of do now with the absence because they're more, they're more in the middle of the field, but he's more actually than all those guys, a vertical threat downfield. That's where he makes his money. He can get by linebackers. He's explosive. You'll see the closing burst. He'll separate. I don't think he's the same, but he still has that kind of ability. I mean, he is a 99 percentile athlete at that position. Yeah. There's not many guys in this league that have the physical traits, even at 33, than this guy does. At the top, if he's 70, 80%, and he gives you a Mike Gesicki role, right? Like, let's say that's what it is. That's fine. And you could even see him. He played a lot in the slot. I'll let you go here, Jason. He played a lot. I think 30, 40% in the slot. That's a lot for a tight end. So you can even see it with Julian Hill's on the field, and he's in the slot, and you can still run the ball because you have a big 6'6" receiver. Let's say you went into an outside zone. You can block with Waller, even though he's not a great blocker for tight end. But on the outside in the slot as a wide receiver, he becomes a plus blocker, and you can still have the blocking tight end, so you can disguise things and kind of they don't know where they're going. So that's another option with him. Go ahead, Jason.
Significantly taller than Jonnu, significantly taller than NWI, 6'6". So I really, to mention the Mike Gesicki role, what Mike Gesicki was very good at was going up and getting the ball and landing where you don't need to get any more yards. End zone or the first down sticks. So that's what I'm really looking at from a Waller standpoint. If it's, if it's 3rd and 5, you need an absolute, 5-yard touchdown. Throw it up to Waller. Let him come down with it. That you get that presence. I don't think you're getting 80 catches. I don't think you're getting, a ton of midfield production potential from him. I like NWI in that role. And then once you maybe get closer to the red zone, then you could be a little more creative. But, I don't know if the volume will be there, but I think he could help. If he makes his team, he can help in certain aspects and portions of the game. But I don't want to throw Jonnu Smith career numbers and say that Darren Waller is going to have a career year. I think we've seen that already.
Yeah. His best year's already happened, no matter what. I think you make a good point because he is different. He is different than Jonnu. Like people think, okay, they're both athletic, but they're both different. He doesn't work the middle. Again, he can get behind that second level a little bit more. So NWI can still play that Jonnu Smith role. Actually, you make a great point, Jason. And I think you're going to get him in spots. You want to see pockets of that greatness. Maybe in the red zone because he's long, his arms are long. He's 6. I mean, he looks like a small forward out there. So that's a great point. Sam, you have anything to add on Waller?
To go with what Jason said, he's a completely different player than Jonnu Smith. And the key is going to be separation because there are two things. Separation. If he can find a way to separate in the end zone, because he's tall, he's big, has a big body. Completely different to Jonnu Smith in the end. So it gives you an advantage if he's fit and he can find a way to separate. He probably can be very versatile, very, very huge on the end zone. That's one. And you have to remember that Jonnu Smith didn't catch up very quickly to the playbook either. He was that first third of the season last year. Jonnu Smith didn't get it to make too much play action. So if he can find a way to get into the program to get the playbook faster than Jonnu Smith did last season, we might have something there. Probably by mid-season, but don't expect to break records for the Dolphins like that. But in the red zone, with a body that big, and if you can find a way to have his presence felt, Dolphins might have something in the red zone with John Smith. I'm sorry, with Waller compared to John Smith, who the red zone wasn't as big, unless he went in the 20s. That John Smith wasn't.
Jake says, what I'm concerned about the Waller acquisition is opportunity cost. I hope this doesn't inhibit the team or the team decides they don't need more in that room now that Waller is in. I mean, long term, I think they know they need more in that room. I wouldn't be surprised to address it in next year's draft. But I think this season, I think that moves are pretty much locked in. You know who the guys I would have liked. I would, if we were going to go this type, I would have liked to invest in Kyle Pitts but everybody was telling me, oh, they got rid of Jonnu because of the blocking. They got a worse blocker actually than him. But I think, to Jake's point, what do you guys think? This year, I think unless something comes up, an opportunity comes up, I think they're pretty much done in that room. They got their blockers. The main blocker, Julian Hill, they love. Let's not understate that. Now they got the receiving threat. Then they can mix a little underneath stuff with NWI. I think they know they don't have the long-term solution, but I think they have the right now for this T25 season solution. You guys disagree with that? Either one of you guys can jump first.
Go ahead, Sammy.
Basically, Chris Greer. If someone gets cut from another team and Mike McDaniel wants him because he knows he can play, they're gonna add it to this team. But as far as that they're making a trade or basically going to the free agent pool, which is not bad as a tight end, they're not gonna do anything. But if something comes up and someone gets cut right before the season, Mike McDaniel wants him, he's gonna be a Dolphin. But I don't think it's gonna happen. Either that happens or nothing happens.
Yeah, I think the best thing. Let's hope he's motivated. He took the year off. He could be refreshed. I mean, it's not easy to come back. So again, I would have probably went in a different direction, but it's a low risk move. There is ability there. I think it'll help in the red zone and even a little vertical threat. I think we're all in agreement. I was kind of meh on the move. Caught me out of nowhere, but
if you're looking at it this way, there's 100. Let's call it 110 targets that John Smith had last year that you have to kind of sprinkle around the offense. They're not all going to Waller. You got to amortize that over to the areas of the field, and you're going to include different positions. But I see those 110 targets: Waller, NWI, Malik Washington, Devon Achane as the main recipients of extra targets, and I think that can actually be of benefit. So you lose one guy making all of that production, but then you could sprinkle it with 5, 6, 7 now viable options when you look at all of your targets. So I like the potential of other people getting
guys, when you see him a person physically, he is a Adonis. There's not many guys like this. So I think that is
and the Dolphins wanted before it. I think the year they traded for Bradley Chubb, but when the Giants traded for him, I think the Dolphins they traded instead for Chubb instead, but they've been looking for Waller for a long time.
Shout out to we got 110 people total watching everywhere. Guys, if you're watching anywhere, come on over to YouTube and watch. Get in the comment section. Hit the thumbs up, the subscribe. We really appreciate it. Yes. Like, share, subscribe. Come on over to YouTube. We like when you guys are in the comment section. It makes it funner for us. All right, let's jump over to we have a cornerback void, and there's one guy out there, Asante Samuel Jr. Of course, his father was the New England Patriots, Asante Samuel Sr. How about we play for them what he said in an interview today? Let's do that.
Oh boy.
Let's this should be fun. Give me 1 second. It always takes me a while to get up the screen share. All right, here it is.
Dolphins had no reason to trade Jalen Ramsey other than they're sensitive. There's no leadership in the Dolphins organization. Mike McDaniels is a pushover. Chris Greer, the general manager, he has no backbone. These guys over here at the Miami Dolphins, they are running this team like a little league team. No one can stand up to the players. They're terrified of their own players, and they have no control over their players. Dolphins had no.
Wow. Okay. So he's not a fan of the Dolphins. How about that?
He's never been a fan.
Yeah, I'll let you start, Jason, because you made a point before we went on there. Go ahead.
This is a guy who started his career, the Patriots, was an early portion of that dynastic run. They all hate the Dolphins. That's number one. That's like a given. He plays for an organization like Philly that is a phenomenal organization too. So his points aren't but you can't say he's necessarily wrong in some of the certain things. But this also does kind of smell like, all right, I would have liked more money potentially for my son, maybe. I don't know if they talk every day. I don't know if they're close. I don't know if they're involved in negotiations, what have you. But this is obviously a scenario where maybe the Dolphins didn't evaluate or value Asante Samuel Jr. as other people, including family, may see him, and it may be a move-on situation. So it's fireworks, George, as I think you were alluded to that. That is the fireworks that happened post 4th of July. But hey, we're 2-3 weeks until training camp. This is news. It's fun.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're bringing in Asante Samuel Jr.
You never. I mean, there's
You never know.
I don't want to get into the family thing, but there's some rumors that him and his father aren't close. I don't know that. That's speculation. I'm not going to get into that, but you never know. It's a shame because he's somebody. I thought he was the guy with a lot of potential on the free agent market if the neck and shoulder worked out. And I believe in this month he was supposed to get a checkup on that. So the timing is interesting there. Sammy.
Well, I love Jason because he's so polite. I'm not as polite as Jason.
Go for it.
He's just basically talking out of his ass. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know what the Ramsey deal. He has not been following the situation. He doesn't know Mike McDaniel. He doesn't know Chris Greer. So he's basically on a podcast. I don't know what the source is. I don't know if it was a Patriot podcast or whatever. I don't even care. But he's basically talking out of his ass.
Pick 622. I think it's his own podcast.
But come on, he's just trying to move the needle. Of course, he's trying not to be boring. But he's talking about his ass. So he doesn't know. I'm sure he has not spoken to Jalen Ramsey. I'm sure he doesn't know Chris Greer or Mike McDaniel. So just going by what he thinks he knows. Is he correct on some of the things he said? Yeah, we talked about it before, probably. But again, that doesn't mean he has any insight on what he's saying.
Yeah.
Probably he doesn't have any insight.
Well, look,
it's about signing with the Dolphins even. So
there's been rumblings about this kind of stuff in the building. I've heard it. Some things, this is not the first time we hear about this. But I think the best way to do it, let's break this down kind of quote by quote. They're sensitive and there's no leadership in the Dolphins organization. Is he wrong? Leadership, I think, is lacking in that organization. And the players
lacking and no leadership are two completely different things.
Yeah, I don't think there is leadership from the top down to the head coach. I don't think there's any. Me personally, just based on some of the things you've seen and done and how players get away with doing things. For example, Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill, but that he's still tweeting and doing things and whatever he does in his personal life, what he does with his wife or whatever, we can't control that. But the tweeting, the comments on social media, leadership doesn't let that happen anymore. You think that happens in Kansas City? You think that happens on a Bill Belichick roster? No. That stuff puts an end to it. There is no leadership. You said it yourself, the substitute theory kind of country club thing they're trying to change. That's the bigger question. That's just my thought. I think from the organization from top down, they lack leadership. Sensitive? I think there's nobody more sensitive than the players. Every single little thing last year that got on the media, they took personal. From Tua to Ramsey to a bunch of players. I think you got to get tough skin in this league. And that's part of what the kind of cloud is over this organization. So, yeah, I believe he's right about both those things. I'll let you – I'm sorry if I'm being a little harsh, but it's – when you listen to this channel, I'm going to tell you the truth objectively. And I think the team last year was soft, sensitive, and I think it still lacks leadership. So whether he knows anything or not, I don't think he's too far off. I'll start with you, Sammy. I see your face. Are you agree with me?
I partly agree with you. But again, it's his perspective. It's his perception. He doesn't have any inside information by saying that the Dolphins are soft because there's no leadership inside the Dolphins locker room. So it's just his opinion, but he's trying to state it as it's a fact. He doesn't have any facts.
Yes, that I agree with. But
that's the base of it. You can say whatever he wants, but you cannot take it as gospel, like he knows something inside the Dolphins locker room and players having a meeting and say Mike McDaniel has no leadership. That's not what happened over here. So having said that, we can both agree that we can with the soft label, the Mike McDaniel leader man or not, is he too funny? He let the players police themselves and that failed. All those things are fair. But it is what it is. He doesn't have any knowledge inside the Dolphins locker room, and he's trying to talk out of his ass like he knows what's going on in there, and that's not the case. That's my point.
Yeah. So do you think? So let me ask you: do you think Mike McDaniel? So you think there is you think Mike McDaniel has a grip on that locker room?
He has the grip of part of the locker room, but no one can tell me a guy like Anthony Weaver, who won as his coach, doesn't have the respect of his players, is not a leader of the defense. So you can say whatever about the complete team, but then fire everybody and don't even think about Anthony Weaver as a head coach if he's not a leader. I think he's the leader of the defensive side of the ball. I think the players.
But he's not the head coach.
So, but there's some leadership inside. There's some leadership. The tight end room has a leader.
I think Weaver goes with whatever he's told right now. I think that's his position. I think that's kind of his role.
If that's the case, then I think this is qualified to be the next Dolphins head coach.
True, that could be point. That's a good point. So I've heard that though.
I don't think that's the case. I think there's a lack of leadership overall. There's a lack of direction overall. Because leadership inside the tight end room, for example, or inside the defense. I see Anthony Weaver has done a pretty good job as a leader, considering what he had to deal with talent last year. So he proved he's a leader of the defense. I think they did pretty good with all those injuries and the lack of valuable players. So again, it is what it is. Samuel's just talking like he knows what's going inside the locker room, and he doesn't know.
I mean, I wouldn't discount that he's heard from. I mean, he's played in the league. His son's in the league. I wouldn't discount. I mean, we've heard this. I mean, we've heard this from the Sean Elliott. We kind of heard a little bit. Jonas Smith made one comment. We kind of heard. It's not crazy to think that there's not leadership. I don't think personally. You got a fan here says preach, Sammy. So agree with you. But I will say this. It's not that I don't think there's any leadership in the building, but you have to have leadership from the top first, because the other stuff doesn't matter if you don't have that. And I just think nobody – it's not they don't like Mike. It's the thing you said. It's perfect. The substitute teacher. It's not that you don't like the guy. I've always said feared.
His weight doesn't work. I always said it from the beginning. His weight doesn't work.
So wait.
I said it from the beginning.
I always said great coaches are feared, but also liked and respected. And there's a fine line there. And I think Mike's got to learn how to kind of walk that line. But the problem is when you already have that personality, you can't change. That's who he is.
If you ask me, there's some players that basically, I said it before, they betray Mike McDaniel. They betray Mike McDaniel's trust.
Well, then there's a lack of leadership. You don't take yourself off the field in the third quarter of a last game of the season, if there's leadership. You just don't. It just won't happen. And you know what happens if they do? That guy's not. No matter how good he is, he's not around next season.
I'll put it this way. I don't want to take you too much out. But this week, thinking about leadership, I started watching then The Last Dance. I seem to.
Oh, here we go. That's why you believe in it.
I wish Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa watched The Last Dance. If Scottie Pippen took himself out of the game in a playoff game with the coach that he had, being the leader of that team, so you can quit even having a great leader, because you cannot tell me that coach wasn't a great leader. So, some players are just
totally
dumb,
different situation. Totally different situation.
Is it? Is it?
Yes.
It's a playoff game on a defending championship team.
There's
defending
no
Hall of Fame
champion team.
There is
defending
no
champion team with 3 rings. So he's not a leader. He took himself out. So sometimes he's not the coach. Sometimes the dumbass player. Tyreek, I'm not calling you a dumbass player, but you are. So you know what I mean.
It's okay. You can. Unless Tyreek wants to come on the show.
There's a fear. There's a fear that
now you started someone else.
Wait, Jason's going to bring up a good point, and I've said it before. But don't wait. Let me walk when your boss comes in and you're in the aisle working, and you look around, you go, "Oh shit, he's here." He doesn't have that quality.
Correct.
That's the quality, the X factor.
Correct.
You have to call it what you want. Call it leadership. Call it what you want. That's not in the building. That I can promise you.
Well, you don't have to preach me that, because I've never been a believer from day one.
In 2000, a couple years ago, when the offense was breaking records and the motion and everything was crazy and new and fresh, and McDaniel can get away with that because they were winning. But then it got figured out. Injuries happened. Road wins didn't materialize, and things got exposed, really. And the team isn't talented enough going into this season to mask what McDaniel may lack as a head coach, which is why it's almost like kind of in my mind like a cartoon. Like I feel like if Mike McDaniel's on the sideline, every 5 feet away is going to be Anthony Weaver, like right there.
Yeah.
Like if there's this much error, if they come back from that midseason gauntlet 2-3 games below 500, that's it. I would hope, no, I'm not hoping that happens, but if that does happen, I would hope that they make a change. And I think the only thing that's going to really save Mike McDaniel and this, and his coaching is 2 playoff wins, frankly. So here we are. I'll say that. I'll go on record saying that.
I like that.
There's nothing.
I like that. I like that, Jason.
If he's a guy, listen, how can you fire a coach, hypothetically, if he wins the first playoff game since Y2K?
There's no way.
You might not have the ability to do that.
It might be the statue.
If you fall short of the playoffs, got to make a change. If you lose that playoff game on the road because you snuck in as a wild card and you got killed 35-9 in the cold, you got to make a change. So to me, it's a home playoff game or winning multiple playoff games.
I said it. People say he's on the hot seat. I think he's got to do what this organization hasn't done before to keep his job. I know somebody's got to be the fall guy. But anyways, we'll let Sammy go, and I'm going to make a statement after that.
I used to believe, and I'm on record saying, I thought there was no way. They were in cahoots, and there was no way they're going to fire Mike McDaniel. But I'm kind of turning around that one. They might even be setting Mike McDaniel to fail, to find a way to get him out of here, because they extended him, and now they say like, this is not working. So let's just let's take this season for a loss. Give him whatever he wanted to extend it. He got it. He wanted to extend it. He got it. He lay his own bed. Now he's sleeping it. If he finds a way to win with the place he wanted, he stays. Did
he want Jonah extended?
I don't. If probably he pounded the table, we probably would have got it.
That means that goes to your point that maybe, hey, we're not giving you everything you want now.
Well, that's the thing. They're not bringing in building for a guy. They're bringing in building for a build.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not building the Mike McDaniel team anymore. They're building a team.
It's not working. It's not working.
They're building a team basically for someone else. They don't want to
try to figure that out still.
You know what the problem is? What a really good organization with leadership does, they fire that guy, not waste a year with this guy and start getting the coach that already will fit the players that they're trying to bring in, because it's clearly they're trying to change personnel. We got Jason. It's fair to McDaniel to get a team with guys like that you still expect a playoff win. Is it fair to McDaniel to get a team?
What I'm trying to say, Daniel, it's a very fair point. It's setting up for what I think is the inevitable from a realistic standpoint. You put a gun to my head, I say 8-9 wins, I say things get changed. That's literally what would happen if you put a gun to my head. What I'm hopeful for is potentially, and crazier things have happened in the NFL, crazier things have happened in this fan base going from worst to first. So you always have to kind of have that, you never know. But if he can get over the hump, make the playoffs, win multiple playoff games with that youthful movement and new kind of leadership or new everything, maybe that says maybe McDaniel has grown. Maybe we have to let him continue to try to go get that Lombardi trophy because he got us a game out of it. But I don't necessarily think that's an easy proposition. So if McDaniel does well with this youthful movement and this new culture, I'm all for keeping him around. But if it's, like I said, anything short of what we haven't seen in 20 years, 25 years, unfortunately, have to make another change.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I love doing this show, and it's better to sell you guys hope and Skittles and chocolate and all this great fun stuff that makes you feel good. And it's better if this team has success, but I'm going to tell you like it is. And I think this is the problem with this organization. They keep chasing their tail. There's this stink and stigma over the organization that they can't break, and they constantly try to find it. And I think, honestly, the only way for this team to get to where they want it is when the owner's not on this team and it's a complete shake-up on the top of the front office. That's, to me, when this team has a realistic shot. Now, look, I'd love to be wrong. There's nobody – I've been a fan for this team since I was 9 years old, and there's nobody I want more – nobody wants more than this team hold up a Lombardi trophy, and things can happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not right. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just telling you how I feel. And like the Panthers, they switched up their organization, their front office, and they got the right guy. Now, you don't always hire the right guy. And the problem is the Dolphins have always hired the wrong guy. And
we
to
got to
me,
expand on that.
Yeah.
I've been kind of sitting on this point for a while.
no, so I opened Pandora's box there.
You might have, but what I'm about to say is that, to your point, it is rare during NFL coaching cycles that every team gets their first choice, while at the same time, it is every coach's first choice of where they go. There's a lot of things that have to happen. Now, when the Dolphins were going through that coaching search, they had a stipulation. They literally told people they were interviewing, because it was clear as day, that the defensive coordinator, Josh Boyer, was staying. I don't necessarily know how many coaches would say, that's fine by me, unless they were looking and wanting their first job and they didn't have other options for a first head coaching job. This is not a knock, but if you're bringing in a veteran and you're a veteran head coach, someone who's been through the rodeos, who's a sought after number one in the search process, you tell them, we got our defensive coordinator, so you got to work around that. That's a deal breaker for probably 90% of the candidates, but not for the one that wanted the head coaching job. He's a 42-year-old guy. He took the head coaching job at 38. You know,
Look,
it was working when it was the brilliant new guy, but everyone figured it out, and here we are. Here we are. Half the leadership has left. Captains gone. Guys who wanted to now leave, who were leaders. So, again, it's not necessarily working. And someone said expectations. I don't have huge expectations. That's what I'm trying to say. My expectation is going to be a change, and I hope that I'm wrong, because of the fact that what are we doing here if you're going to still allow failure? They set themselves up for maybe a step back to take 2 steps forward. So if there is a surprise and he does extremely well, it might be worth keeping him around a while. I don't think that's going to happen, though. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong, and Mike McDaniel becomes the greatest coach in the world now.
That's
but look at what we've seen.
Yeah, that's not, again, I hope I'm wrong. You know what I mean? This makes everything funner when they win. But I owe it to the people, whoever decides to watch this show versus any other show, to give my honest opinion, good or bad. And to me, that's just, and to your point, you know the reason why they don't get the first choice? You said it. You can't go into an interview process for a GM or a coach. They never do the full rebuild. They go either half. We're going to hire the GM and keep the coach, hire the GM. You know what a really good GM wants? He wants a clean slate, his quarterback, his coaching staff, a chance to build his roster. We never have done that, okay? The closest thing was what? Parcells, right? That was pretty close. He got his chance. But how good of a personnel guy was Parcells? We didn't get Parcells. He was looking at retirement the whole time. He really didn't care what he was doing here. So they took Jake Long over Matt Ryan. That started the rebuild wrong. Then so it's just until they find the right guy in the front office, whatever you want to call it, executive vice president of football operations, until they find the guy who makes more right decisions than wrong decisions, has conviction, is not afraid to be, take risk. The Dolphins are, if you like a guy, go get him. Even if he's at the quarterback position, you're afraid you're going to have egg on your face and be wrong. You got to do it. They did it with Josh Allen. They did it with Mahomes, these teams. Yeah, the Dolphins always liked guys, but they never had the, to go up and get the guy. They've always said, oh, we liked him too. Adam Gase loved Josh Allen, but they didn't go get him. They stayed there. No, it's okay. Again, it's one thing to like a guy. It's another thing to have the conviction.
Because they could not make their mind.
Yes, because they still can't make their mind. It's the problem. That's why I say, in my opinion, as watching this team for a long time.
Record, Chris Greer wasn't in charge of making the picks in that.
Well, even was that. Yeah. But Chris Greer, Chris Greer's had a seat at the table. He's been the personnel, the college director of Scott. He's been here for 20-something years. He's part of the stank, all right, in one way or the other. And it's not, we've seen him as a GM. This draft we liked, but again, this team has never made that next step. They're chasing their tail. They got this. Everybody in that building's been around with the aura of we haven't won a playoff game. They got to get that out of the building. That stank, fresh, new, from scouting to area scouts to assistant general managers. everybody's got to get out, and this owner's not going to do it. So it's going to be unfortunate to the next owner, and then the next owner has to make the right decision, and then they got to make the right decision on hiring the right GM. That GM has to make the coach, and then this is a competitive league. A lot of teams, it's a very fair playing field. Something's got to be separated, and it's separated with how the front office makes decisions. That's the separation, what happens, and in the coaching staff. How you bring talent is a talent acquisition business, and how you coach players. That's what separates them. That's what these great teams do. They bring in as much talent as they can. I've always said you worry about it later, and the coaches put them in the best position to succeed. And that's something we haven't had here. And that's just my thought on what's going to eventually have to happen for them to get there. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know what's going to happen. They could get lucky and win to be in the AFC Championship game. That'd be great. But that's just, my thought. I know.
I mean, just one more second on this. It's like,
sorry if I went too long on that.
No, not at all. But I'm not expecting a playoff win. I'm hoping for one. There are extreme differences in that. Yeah. I don't expect to win the lottery. I'd love to win the lottery. Right now, that's what it's looking like. A playoff win is that far off from this team. They are the 7th, 8th, or 9th best team in the AFC at best at the moment. There is not rose or aqua-colored glasses over my eyes. I just like to talk about things that I like better from a micro sense, not a macro sense. You know what I'm saying?
There's some very positive things. There's talent in this roster, no doubt. It's not positive things. I just don't think they have the right people in place to get the most out of this talent and know how to build the roster and construct it where the pieces fit better. I think that's what they're lacking. But there is talent, and again, they could surprise. They could. Would it shock me if they won a playoff game? No. You have Tua Tagovailoa, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle, you have Chubb, you have. If everything goes right and everybody stays healthy, this is a playoff team. Sammy,
I'd like to answer Daniel's last question. That's the point. So if we and I'm going to play right off it. In my opinion, if we fire Mike McDaniel in January and hire Anthony Weaver, then I set the clock for Anthony Weaver on 2026. I see what they build on a nice 2025 draft from a interior presence, strength, leadership, 4-year starters across the board, multiple athletes. I would like to build off of that. The clock for me for the Anthony Weaver regime will start 2026. And I'd love to talk to you in 2027, Daniel, on a show that the three of us are doing, and we'll talk about it. That's where I would like to be, if that helps.
Guys, let me read it. Guys, we fire McDaniel January. All right, what are the expectations? I mean, if you fire him in January, obviously things didn't go right, and I think the clock would be the next season where Weaver will get his chance. The clock would start next season. So
what if he has say in a new quarterback? Will Tua be the guy, or will they get rid of him?
Look, Jason, and Sammy, I'll say this: I don't think it's a lock that Weaver would be the coach. I don't think it's a lock. Sammy, you said. Sam, do you have any thoughts on this? I don't want to leave you out here as me and Jason are.
No, let's move forward because, again, it's the never-ending story because we talked about it before and we're all right.
Yeah.
We can all agree, again, but it's too soon. This team has flaws, huge flaws, and we know that everything is as good as the biggest flaws, and the secondary is still the biggest source of flaws. In this division, it's a killer. Yeah. But this team can get caught fire and maybe win 9 games and sneak into the playoffs, maybe even 10. And who knows? Who knows who's the number 2 seed and we're the last team in, and maybe it's the Bengals or something like that. We can go to the season and win. Who knows? This team is capable enough.
That's hope. That's not expectation.
Exactly. Who knows?
That's all we have, boys, is hope. That's all we have.
It's not like last year or the year before. We had expectations because we knew that talent was enough for the Dolphins to win, even maybe win a playoff game. This is not the year for that. We all know it. But again, we still don't know if Mike McDaniel new ways even work or not. Probably, I don't think they will. But I'm not ready to say they won't.
The good thing is about this experiment that's happening, we are going to know relatively soon. And when I say that, it's going to be different nuances of the game. What plays are called, what personnel is used in certain aspects of the game. I think last year was a glaring hole in the interior of the offensive line on both sides throughout the season, no matter who you put there. The guard spots hurt McDaniel's ability to have confidence in calling plays that just would go up the middle. It's simple as that. I think that they mask that, but they don't have depth on their offensive line. That's a problem. But I think that they improved the potential of becoming maybe a tougher team on the road, being up by 6, 5, 4 points, where you need to grind it out and run the clock and move the chains. That's when we're going to know. If they're on the road on Indianapolis and they're up by 4 and there's 4 minutes left, Colts have 1 timeout left. You need 2 or 3 first downs, end the game, kill the clock. Don't rely on Tua having to be a hero because it's 3rd and 4, and if he can't convert, the Colts then have a shot.
Yeah.
But don't throw that fade that always throws that always fails.
To Tyreek Hill.
Unless it's the Darren Waller.
Darren Waller. Let's not throw it to Tyreek Hill.
The point is, and Cosa Nostra, no, everything is not going to be okay if you fire a head coach, because you know what happens when you fire a head coach? Things aren't going okay.
Yes.
So we will
if they fire McDaniel, things aren't going
okay. But that's my point. I'm saying that if we're sitting at 3 and 5 and you go on that gauntlet, good night, nurse. It's over.
Oh yeah, if they go 3 and 5 in those first 8 games, oh boy, he's not coming. He's not coming back from Madrid. I'll tell you that.
You know, I know we want to move on about it, but going with Jason said, we're gonna know by week 1.
Well, no,
week 1.
He's got to make changes in his. He got to be stubborn.
If it's the same thing as always, we'll know by week 1. We don't have to wait. The preseason doesn't matter. Week 1 in Indianapolis, like Jason said, we're going to know.
If it is the fourth quarter, it's the fourth quarter, and the Dolphins are up by 1 possession, I'm telling you right now, we are going to know.
Yeah, and I also think it's before that is their game plan. Has his philosophy changed? Has he changed? We're going to know even before the foot. But yes, that's the one thing I do have hope on based on the draft they had and the personnel they're bringing in. That's the one thing I do have hope on. So look, again, I want to make this. If you watch this show, you're going to know I'm going to tell you the good and the bad, and it's going to be honest. That's why you watch this show. And if you want somebody to sell you hope, when it's going good, I'll tell you it's going good. And when it's bad, I'll give you my honest opinion. And that's kind of how I am, and I'll always be. And I know you guys are the same. So
for hope you join us on Fins TV.
Hope you come join. You go Sammy on Fins TV.
It's not even saying that the Colts are an easy game. That's part.
Well,
it's not. It's part of what we're saying.
We're not too far off from the Colts. Yeah.
If the Colts beat us 33-6, we're gonna know a lot.
We're in trouble.
24-21 because of whatever circumstance, you will know. We can't know what happens.
32, and we throw a screen instead of running the ball.
Exactly.
There you go. We know.
And Tariq fumbles, and here we go again.
Let's shout out to almost 200 people we have in here. In total, guys, if you're watching anywhere else, come on over to YouTube. Tell them, boys, come on over to YouTube. Thumbs up, subscribe. Come join the chat. We're having a lively conversation. We're doing a top 5 we're going to get into now, but it's taking us for almost 15 minutes to get there.
Oh, the chat is on fire. So.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it.
So let's jump into it. You guys ready?
We didn't even start the show format yet.
Yeah. We haven't even started yet. Oh man. All right.
Let's go.
We're going to have our top 5. Again, not necessarily the best players on this team, but guys we think can take a big leap forward. And let's start here. First one. Love the graphics, by the way. I got to give myself a...
Yeah.
All right. Storm Duck.
Jason, you
want to start on Storm Duck?
Listen, this is the best part about Storm Duck's potential is that it is massively needed. There is a guy who has to step up on the boundary, and the first person whose job it is to lose is Storm Duck. He played by half defensive snaps last year. He wasn't necessarily a stat stuffer, still looking for that pick, but he's a guy who could be benefited by a defensive philosophical change with a front 7 that could help the secondary. So I don't think if he doesn't do anything egregiously wrong, and they don't obviously bring in a top-tier cornerback, which I don't think they're going to do, it is his job to lose, being one of the top 2 outside cornerbacks on this team. We love ourselves some undrafted free agent cornerbacks. Now we want to see the actual vesting of it. And it's an early vest. It's only the second year for him, but he has the ability. He needs I need to see 14, 17 games, not 3 starts. You know what I mean? I need to see what he does on a full season mixed with what that potential pass rush could do. We're a Dolphin team too, and here comes a little potential because I like the defense of what they could do if they generate pressure and sacks with a three-headed monster that has not yet been seen in entirety yet in Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, and Chop Robinson, which could help Storm Duck benefit all these corners and safeties. So I like him to hopefully take that next step, because somebody has to, or else we're in deep trouble in the secondary.
Yeah, I want to just bring up Daniel's comment. Yeah, love the show.
That's fine.
That's what it's all about.
I appreciate you, Daniel.
I don't want everybody agreeing. It's boring if you do. But Daniel, you've been a loyal listener. We thank you, and no problem, buddy. We appreciate it.
Respectful debate is always part of sport. It's been the best part of sports since Twitter.
We'll get to him, Daniel, on an honorable mention. Somebody will have it. If not, we're going to bring him up anyways. But yeah, you're on the right money there, Daniel. All right, Sammy, Storm Duck.
Well, number one on Power Rankings for the greatest name of all time, Storm Duck.
He's up there. He's up there.
Well, again, show flashes. We all know, was mentioned a lot. Again, he's key because we're gonna know pretty soon. We had the worst secondary in the NFL. So if he has a great season, if he comes up to par, so what you guys and you probably yours expecting of him,
yeah,
the Dolphins might have a respectful, secondary. If he doesn't, the Dolphins are sure going to be in trouble. So that he's a key. He needs to have a very good 35 tackles for the first season as a rookie, as an undrafted rookie is pretty good. He plays also special teams, so I'm sure he played a lot. So a snap count of 359 tells you he wasn't the field. So it's not like he was way too injured. He find a way to find the way on the field. So it's going to be key. If he hits, the Dolphins might be okay in the secondary. If he doesn't, we might be looking at season 11 again. So,
yeah. So for me, with Storm, is the reason he's on this list. Most importantly, is the opportunity he has in front of him in that room. Like, there's not much there. Even if they add a guy, Rasul Douglas, I think he's primed to be a starter. It's going to be a second year in the system. I think it's an advantage to him because when Storm Duck came out, if the Dolphins play more press man coverage or some bump and run coverage, that's his strength. He's physical in the press man and in bump. The thing I like about him, he's got certain corners have that mirror match ability where they can kind of tail receivers. He has that. He's best when things are in front of him. That's the thing I know. He knows leverage well for a young corner. Weaver likes him. Look, he gets, the ball skills and the pass breakup. Those are some things he's got to work on. He's a good tackler. He's a guy I thought should have been drafted, a lot like a guy that we got this year in the name B.J. Adams, name to keep in mind maybe in the next few days. And he's a good tackler, but most importantly, he's a guy I think that will have an opportunity and will take a jump here. I don't know. He's not going to be an all-pro corner, a Pro Bowl cornerback, but I think he can be a serviceable starting corner, and that's all you're asking for right now from an undrafted free agent. So I think he takes a jump this year. In year two. And there's a bunch of those guys, but I think he's the best of that bunch. We got, we'll talk about some other guys. All right, is that it on Storm Duck? You want to move on to the next guy?
Let's pass the Storm on.
All right, let's pass the Storm here. Oh, okay. I just want to say, I debuted the draft board this year, but last year I had one as well. Number 100 on my board was Malik Washington. All right. Should I start with Malik? All right, so Malik Washington, I loved him out of college. First of all, he didn't drop anything in college. I love that about him. And for a small guy, he jumps out of the gym. He's like tough. He's physical. Like he does well at the catch point for a guy who's 5'8", 5'9", strong hands. What the ceiling on him is, he kind of looks like Tyreek Hill physically, right? The thing that's going to always limit Malik's ceiling and why he's better in the slot is the lack of the top end speed. That limits his speed. He's a good speed. He doesn't have that elite burst, and he's almost built like a running back. He's really tough after the catch. But I think what's going to help him this year is his chemistry with Tua. You've seen them working out together. This offense is all about timing and trust and rhythm. So more than any position this year, that position you can take the jump because you're going to have another year with Tua, and Tua seems comfortable with him. I like him in the slot. I think he's going to keep getting better. He's good on special teams, but his ability after the catch and I think he's the best receiver we have in the screen game just because he's got running back skills. I love Malik. Again, the only problem is you're kind of duplicating a bunch of 5'8", 5'9" receivers in the room, but I think he's the leader in the clubhouse between the 20s to be the third wide receiver because I think he fits the offense more than NWI does. I think he's got good short area quickness, gets to the spot, beats the corners there, and Tua trusts him. So I think he's going to take a big jump. Sammy.
You sure you want me to go next?
Either one of you guys.
Go for it, Sammy.
Okay. Do you know what I like the most about Malik Washington? He's a playmaker. And you cannot teach that. I get that in the instance he played last season, he only got 26 catches, but he got some big catches for a rookie last year. So that's encouraged. It encourages me to see a player who's a rookie who wasn't expected to even make the team as a late round pick, but you can remember that Rams game and I think the Jets game was another game that he made some huge
got
catches.
up the Sanders field goal.
Exactly. So when you have a playmaker, a guy that as a third or fourth receiver make the most out of the opportunity, you have a player, and that's why I like Malik Washington. I think he's a great compliment to Waddle and Tyreek. Again, the height it is what it is. We all have basically all have the same height.
If he was 6'1", you wouldn't have got him in the fifth
exactly.
round.
But he's a playmaker, and I love that about
or sixth round.
So it was a great get. So the sky's the limit. He has to continue to do that to make the most of the opportunities.
Yeah.
Jason?
I cannot wait to see more usage from him because the 72.2 catch rate is great, but in the last quarter of the season, his production quadrupled. Now, that means he was getting 1 target a game to 4. And in that increase, look it up, his catch rate improved to 80%. So when given more work, he's catching more balls because he's ready to go. And he's a returner. He was a top 9 total return yardage producer, I believe, last year in all the NFL. And believe it or not, in all the NFL, rookies, veterans, every single position, the number 1 ranked route win rate runner, if that makes sense. Number 1 in route win rate. And if you just hope he can get 60, 70 targets, do the math. I mean, as a 4th, 5th option in his second year, who's a 2-phase player, I think the sky's the limit for him, and he is an extremely intelligent kid. I mean, he's got a master's degree in higher education, which tells me he's a reader, he's a worker, he's a learner, he's a note taker, he's an after the hours kind of guy. And I think the sky's the limit for a guy like Malik. I really do. And he reminds me a little bit. I know I'm going a little crazy here, but he comes into the league as a returner, and there's 2 top receivers that are ahead of him. You know that. And it's going to be for another year. That's how
I know where you're going.
My dog is agreeing with me, but I'm not saying he's OJ McDuffie.
He's a dog. Malik's a dog as well.
He's cutting that mold. Let him do his job, and then he'll improve.
You see, here's the thing. You see that receptions 26 on the screen. Put a 5 in front of that. I would, or even a 6. I wouldn't be surprised if he doubles his output. I just think he fits.
Who does he remind you of, Jason?
OJ McDuffie.
Shout out to OJ McDuffie in the fish tank. We got to get OJ on. I've been battling to get OJ on for a while. Hopefully we can get him on here. We had Seth on. All right, we have over 215 people watching. Guys, if you're watching anywhere, come on over to YouTube. Guys, please hit that thumbs up, hit that like, come in the chat. We love it. The chat's been wild. Leave the comments on the video. We appreciate it. It really helps you come home. It helps the algorithm if you guys come over to YouTube and check us out. But we appreciate you watching anywhere. All right. Malik, let's move on to the next guy, number 3. Jalen Wright. And I got a couple interesting points on Jalen. We'll let Sammy, you want to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
Well, rumor has it that he didn't pick up the offense very well last season, and it's been said that he can't block well. That doesn't fly too much with me because it's not like Devon Achane is Jerome Bettis or anyone, Larry Sanka. So blocking probably wasn't the problem. But if you cannot get the offense, that might be a problem. The Dolphins traded for him some good capital to move out to get him. He was projected by some to even be in the second round in last year's draft. So, the potential is there. He has the body. He has the speed. He's been said that he probably should commit more when he's making a run. So sometimes he doesn't go to the right hole, and
He's not decisive.
He's not decisive enough. But that comes with time. So I'm a huge believer in him. When I saw him last preseason, I showed some flashes. So he has a better body for what the Dolphins sometimes wants to do, and they try to do with Evan A-Chain. So he's kind of bigger. He's kind of more better build up. So if he can find a way to have Jalen Wright and A-Chain in the same package, one as a receiver, one as a runner, Jalen Wright might see a lot of runs, a lot of good runs. So I'm really curious to see what he can do this year. I'm a fan. I really like the coming out of college. I think the Dolphins got a good player when they drafted him. So it remains to be seen, but I'm hopeful that he can pull it together this year.
Jason, you want to go?
Yeah, another guy who needs volume. This is a guy who I would love to take from 2 years ago, a little bit more of the Raheem Mostert work. Look, he's not scoring 18 touchdowns. I'm not saying that he's not going to be the touchdown record guy.
Nobody is.
But from a carry standpoint, look, this is a guy who, when he got 2 weeks worth of substantial carries for him, he had 9 carries week 4, and then the next week he had 13 carries. He averaged 5.5 yards a carry in those 2 games. So you give him a little bit more volume, you never know what he can muster up. But he hadn't had a chance to get going. Is that the playbook? Is that, just the rookie wear and tear? Maybe a combination. But this season, I would hope that there is a good share of tough, gritty, middle of the field yards in between the guard kind of yards for Wright to let Achane get a little bit more outside and focus a little bit more on pass catching. I don't want to see 10 rushes of Achane through the middle. Give a lot of that work to Jalen Wright, a little bit some to Ollie Gordon too. But I think Wright can take a step up, 9 to 11 carries a game at the minimum. I think he could put some damage together. I think he maybe average 5, 6, 60, 50, 60 yards a game.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I got a couple points on. I went back to watch him a little bit because it was a disappointing season for him. I mean, look at the rushing attempts and rushing yards. The rushing average wasn't great. His longest run for a guy with this kind of explosion was 20 yards. So what went wrong? And I think one of the biggest things that's overstated, everybody saw him and it looks like Raheem Mostert. They thought, okay, this guy is an outside outside zone stuff. He ran a lot in college at Tennessee. Actually, Tennessee ran more inside zone. And you can see on film, he struggled making the right reads on the outside zone stuff. Sometimes he wouldn't string it along enough. Sometimes he would not cut back in the lane when it was there. He just, like Sammy said, was not decisive. I think he was still learning this scheme. And I think it was very evident on tape and just watching him play. He didn't look decisive. Some of his best runs last year were inside zone stuff and in the gap. He had 2 really good games against the Pats and the Niners. Hopefully the improvement in the guard play, we think, with Jonah and James Daniels will help him. Sammy, again, the pass blocking thing, you have to pass block to get on the field, especially with the kind of quarterback you have with Tua. He talked about himself. I think I read somewhere he talked about him adjusting to the speed of the game. And I think people think that he was this outside zone monster in college, and just wasn't the case. They ran some of it. And I think that was the biggest thing, his adjustment. And there's no more excuses for him this year, but he has all the tools. When you look at a Mike McDaniel kind of running back, he looks the part. And if he's figured it out, he could take a significant jump because, Jason's point, I think they overutilize A-Chain. A-Chain shouldn't be running 15 times up the gap or carrying the ball 15 or 20 times. He should be doing a little bit of everything and being a kind of a weapon in different scenarios and creating mismatches.
The term for A-Chan is touches. Get him touches.
Yes.
And that's 7+ receptions a game. And I do the math. I know that sounds crazy, but that's exactly what he averaged when Tua was the quarterback. When Tua was not the quarterback, A-Chan's reception numbers were fractioned. I mean, they were horribly cut. So when Tua is healthy, A-Chan helps as a receiving threat, and you got to give those dirty ground yards to Jalen Wright.
Yeah, or look, or Ollie Gordon's going to take him. Let's see. You know what I mean? Like, this is Jalen Wright's. If Jalen Wright's going to become a back, this is his opportunity this year. Because if he sinks again this year, he's a guy you're looking at sinking on the depth chart, and he won't be around for that much longer. He's just going to fall out of favor, especially like a guy like Ollie Gordon. I think I'm hoping he figures it out. I think that's the biggest thing I saw. Is he wasn't as comfortable in the outside zone stuff. Sammy, I think the word decisive was perfect. he did look like he had a little muscle this year, so that's good. And the
Yes.
kid works hard. He wants to be good. So, yeah, he's a guy I think you take a jump. He's one of the bigger ones on this roster.
He could be
I have a
Jimmy.
lot of faith in him.
This is a running back group that could have jobs. You know, if Jalen Wright's job is to pick up the first down, look, he's really good in yards to go 1 through 6. He averages in those 7 attempts from last year 6 yards a carry. So when he's asked to get minimal yards, he's getting 3, 4, 5 more yards than asked for. So if that's his role, that's great too.
Yeah. Put it in the Wildcat and let's see what happens. Let's go.
All right, so let's go on to number 2. Patrick Paul. Well, boy, he's going to have an important role this season. I'll start with Patrick Paul. You guys started with the other ones. All right, so Patrick Paul's interesting. No secret. Hold my hand up. Wasn't a fan of the draft pick. I must say, when they drafted him, I saw the vision they had for him, right? The length, the strength, all that kind of stuff. But the one thing I underestimated, and I've always said this, was the reps. 31 reps for that kind of arm length. I should have known better that stuff is kind of rare. Again, he had ups and downs last year. His rookie season was, he struggled versus Garrett. But look, to be fair to him, the situations he struggled in were tough situations for a rookie. The hand placement was bad in college, but he still would win. And in the NFL, he's not winning as much, but the hand placement is still bad, and he still gets away with it because he's just got crazy length and strength for a man that size. So I'm kind of that's the way he plays. Now, if he wants to take the next step, he's got to work on it. If he wants to become not just a serviceable tackle, but a guy who can sniff maybe one day potentially a Pro Bowl or being above average starter, he can't leave his chest open too much against the really good guys. Because with his kind of arm length and strength and footwork, he should close that up and he should be more dominant in that. Okay. He needs to clean that up to take the next step. And I think he can because he looks slimmer. The kid's a worker. He wants to be great. Teron Armstead said great things about him. So those kind of things, check mark, make me believe that, he will take that step. I don't think we're going to see a guy who's like a above average tackle this year, but I think we'll see a jump and he'll be good enough, I think, to kind of make the interior, if the interior proves where the offensive line as a whole will be better. But in the run game, you see the potential. Needs to be more consistent, but, I believe him in the run game, the power he has, the ability to get to the second level. Again, the hand placement and the technique are going to determine how he takes that next step. But I was wrong in the fact that sometimes these guys have awkward ways of playing and their talent, their physical traits. Let them do that. I think I mistake that, and there's more to that game, to his game, and he's got some rare traits as far as strength and wingspan that you can't teach. So again, that's my thoughts on him. I think he'll improve. He'll be good enough. So I'll leave it over to you, Jason, on Patrick Paul. Do you agree with anything I said?
Oh, yes. Short answer, yes.
Yeah.
Long expanding on it, probably or arguably the most important player who needs to take a jump. I mean, look, he's replacing a Hall of Fame left tackle. Is that going to be half the production? Maybe even not. But this is how I see the offensive line as a whole, and then I'll get into Patrick Paul from an individual.
Yep.
Last year they had oft injured, or I don't want to use oft injured, but injury prone Hall of Famer in the tail end of his career, which is fine. Whole, Aaron Brewer, whole, Austin Jackson until he got hurt. Now I'm looking at this year as guy who's replacing a Hall of Famer. The jury's still out on him. Maybe a rookie or maybe a veteran in Savanea or James Daniels. I'm interested to see what they do.
Yep.
Aaron Brewer, one of the other guards who I like better than last year, and then a healthy Austin Jackson. So I think the offensive line as a whole improves. Where we will need to see if Patrick Paul is the guy, this is not an offense that needs Tua protected for 3.5 seconds to make him make his decision. I'm more concerned about what his potential is in the run game.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to put the rookie Jonah next to him and there could be a potential awesome next level rushing attack on the outside, inside, what have you. Or if James Daniel is ready, you put the veteran next to Patrick Paul. I'm very intrigued by that. But if Patrick Paul could be status quo on the pass protection, meaning this offensive line just has to be decent enough to keep Tua upright for 2 reads, a couple of seconds. That's what it is. That's Tua. I'm going to be interested in seeing how he helps and influences the rush.
Yeah, he packs a ton of power behind his body in the run game. Like sometimes he misses blocks. He's like not as accurate, but like he packs a punch in the run game. And I think you make a great point. That more than anything, Tua's going to get the ball out quick. He's got enough length. He'll be fine in that 2 point whatever seconds. The run game, I think you're right on that, is the X factor. Sammy.
I'm going to be quick. Best max in all football by report, number one. The physical attributes are there. But of course, like you said, in college, probably you can do that. You can go based on your physical attributes and win against lesser competition. The problem is that one thing is good, one thing is bad. I don't think he's the guy. He's the one who's gonna when you have someone like Terran Armstead with that kind of work, body of work, that work ethic. You what a great master to learn from when you're a guy like Patrick Paul coming into the NFL. So you started your career in the upwards over there. Again, the run game, the run abilities will have to work with C and the weight because either you have them or you don't. I don't think that's one of those things. If you don't have the physicality, you can be the biggest guy in the world, but you don't have the physicality to be a run blocker. I've heard so many years from offensive linemen that either you have it or you don't. So we have to wait and see because he hasn't shown very much in that aspect. So hopefully they can find a way to, in that kind of zone blocking scheme, they're also probably going to use a little bit more this season. He can find his niche and basically be a better run blocker, but it remains to be seen. Hopefully he finds it. And of course, the pass protection, again, physical abilities. He doesn't put it to a blind side. That's good. But no quarterback wants to have pressure in his face all the game. So he'd have to pull it all together, you see, or the Dolphins might be looking for a left tackle fight next season.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good sign when Armstead says things like he's able to hold his block with his hands without pads on, and that's very hard to do. So he's definitely got the strength and the attributes. So, again, I think this is probably the most important guy, right? Like you said it, Jason, this is out of all of them, this is the guy who, if we're going to pick one to say who takes the next step, we hope it's him. So I think.
That sets up beautifully.
Are we ready for
That's
number one?
The one guy who could take the biggest step.
Yeah. And Mr. Chow.
Boom!
Boom! Oh, Sammy, are you teasing something? Boom!
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Who wants to start on Chop?
I'll start on Chop.
Okay.
I listen, I'm a guy who likes potential. We all know that. And I'm looking at what he can potentially do. And I circle 8 games in a row from last season when he started to get on fire. His 8 games from week 9 to week 16, he had 6 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 12 QB hits. If you want to spread that in a 17-game average, that would translate to 12 sacks, 11 tackles for losses, and 26 QB hits. I'm not saying he's going to get that, but numbers kind of can say he's in for double-digit sacks if he's going to build on last year. He was one of the top pressure-producing players, not just rookies. It did take him 7-8 weeks to get going. And now you're going to add into the mix him as a rotational piece. Look, he did this in 53, 56% of the snaps last year. But if you keep a good, clean rotation with him, a healthy Jalen Phillips, a healthy Bradley Chubb, with 2 of them at least on the field at the same time, they're all going to be helping each other. And hopefully that fresh rotation keeps them all healthy for a full season. I'm going to set the number at 10 sacks for Chop, and I think that could be done. I think that could be done with room to work. With room to work.
I'm going to go on here, Sam, because I'm eager to talk about Chop. So, again, him and Jalen Waller, the 2 guys I mostly went back and looked at. He was unlocked in the second half. The first half, we were kind of wondering, he was situational, the run game, he was getting off the field, wasn't getting a lot of pressure. Well, I mean, sacks. He was getting pressure. We're thinking, oh, God, is this the same thing as college? Well, I don't know if it was the coaching staff or was it Phillips and Chubb who were injured in his ear talking to him. But the first thing that sets everything up for him, the first thing is why he has a chance to do all this is his first step and his explosiveness, his initial burst is probably 99th percentile in the NFL. Like, it's very rare. And what you see that as the second half progressed is the tackles would go back immediately. they'd already going back just to respect that first step. So they'd be already in a vulnerable position, and they were so respectful of his first step explosion. He all of a sudden started his cadence was better, his timing was different. When he rushed, he would show his hands, take them away, then dip under with a move. He'd go inside, outside because they were already going backwards. Then he'd take them, he'd use their lack of leverage as an advantage and just go straight speed to power. He would switch it up. It was a nightmare for these guys. And that was something he wasn't doing before. And he unlocked it. Those little nuances, the little tricks, the little improvements he made created and sometimes he can just beat you just off the first step and get around you, dip under. And his bend is good. He doesn't have unbelievable bend, but it's pretty good. But that step is it's better than Cam Wake. And I'm saying that, and Cam Wake was great. It's better than Cam Wake. I'll go a step further. He has the most potential as anybody on this team. His ceiling is the highest. Will he get there? I don't know. But his ceiling is the highest on this roster. And I give Greer a lot of stuff, but they took, I don't know who was responsible for it, but we'll give him the credit. They took a chance on this guy, and they coached him up right. I think also Phillips and Chubb need to be credited. They were on this guy because they were sitting on, obviously they were injured. They were out this year. But it's scary when you watch the kind of ability he has. And he's also good rushing up the middle. The stunt stuff, the A-gap, he's really good at that. And imagine now, he did that with no really threat on the other side. What was it, Emmanuel Agba? Now he's going to have Phillips, hopefully, Chubb. How are they going to use those three guys? He's a nightmare for ends. So I think he's got the ability. You said double-digit sacks. It'd be a disappointment if we don't look up and there's 12 sacks for this guy. That'd be a disappointment for me. But if he gets 10 or 11, still, it's great. But, yes, definitely double-digit sacks. But the way he was unlocked, I think what also he needs to be on the field more. The run defense is going to improve. But, again, he'll be able to relieve some of that stuff with Phillips and Chubb there. But, man, he is something special coming off the edge, and especially in the second half. And we worried about that stuff in college. He couldn't finish, but he figured it out. And he figured out how to kind of – that first step sets up where the tackle's got to play a certain way, and he's able to use it, and he figured it out. So let's hope it continues. Yeah, he can be special. Sammy?
What a wonderful pick by General Manager Chris Weir, huh?
Yeah.
Well, Chubb, of course. It's been said that he only was a speed rusher, and he doesn't have a power move. But, he's a rookie. We all says that probably he's still developing his skills. So to have him number one, probably he's the biggest key. He along with Chubb, with Jason Phillips and Bradley Chubb, because with the secondary we have, that secondary is only be as good as the pass rush. If the pass rush is as good as we hope it be, then the secondary is going to be benefit hugely from that. So Chubb Robinson had a very, very good first season. There's a Dolphins media member who says he's 1-3 pony. He's not a big deal. I completely disagree with that.
But when you're one trick,
but didn't Teron Armstead say that he's getting better at setting the edge, or is that?
Wait a minute. I don't care.
When
when your one trick is that special, it doesn't matter. When that one trick is that special,
we can all basically you go down this list and they'll basically all have the same thing in common. They have the physical traits. It's about developing those traits and getting the next step. If all the players you have in this list, it's a great list, 1 through 5.
Yeah.
And if all these players develop and to the fullest potential, the Dolphins will be all right. If only one of them succeeds, it's only Chubb or only Patrick Paul, the Dolphins are going to be mediocre. So the Dolphins were said so many times that the Dolphins were old last season. Now they have one of the youngest thrower teams in the league. Those 5 players are key. If they find a way to take that next step, starting with Chubb Robinson, and how much he's going to have the secondary is going to be key for the Dolphins.
Yeah. What do you guys think in the chat of the top 5? And we got some. We're each going to give you. We're going to wrap it up. We're each going to give you an honorable mention or two.
I have mine.
You have mine. I'll start. Is that fine? All right. My guy, somebody I loved from the minute I saw him in preseason his rookie year, Patrick Moore, safety. He'll get. he's kind of the same size as Minka Fitzpatrick, so I think this is a great kind of guy to learn under. For this is a guy that Patrick can learn from. The one thing about Patrick, he had that injury last year. I like immediately the preseason action I saw from him. I love his football IQ. He's really good playing in split safety alignments. His instincts, the ability to recognize. He's not the best athlete in the world, but I always say guys who can recognize and anticipate are always 2 yards ahead of plays. And he's really good underneath stuff. He comes downhill. He tackles well. His football IQ is there. I just, sometimes your eyes tell you when you watch a player, and he's just one of these guys that I really like. And I think Mika, this is, we did this, spoiler alert, before the Mika trade. We kind of had these guys in our mind, and he's a guy I think perfectly, I think they're even about the same size, perfectly can learn under him, and he's a special teams player. I just think Patrick Morris, I thought he really had a good chance before the Minka Fitzpatrick, trade. Probably less of a chance to see playing time with that trade, but still, I think he'll see the field. I just like him. I think he's smart. He just has a good understanding what he's doing out there. That's my guy. If anybody has any comments or not, Sammy, you can go on to your guy if you want, or if anybody has anything to say.
Jason, and then I'll wrap it up. Jason, please go ahead.
I'm going to do a different guy than we might have spoken about in the chat, because this is guys who are going to take the next step, right? Yeah. This might have people roll their eyes at me.
Don't take mine now.
Jalen Phillips.
Ooh,
the reason why I'm going to say we want the next step, right?
We didn't have that on the bingo board.
Year 3, 2023, Jalen Phillips was on pace to have around 13 sacks prior to that Achilles tear against the Jets. His last 5 games of that season going into the injuries, he had a 5-game sack streak. He had 6 sacks. He was going to basically shatter his horrible terminology, but he was going to do better than his first 2 years combined, maybe even. Then last year he comes back and he sacks Trevor Lawrence on his first game. So we made it a 6-game sack streak of games played, and then he got hurt again. But this is not something that Jalen Phillips is not used to, unfortunately. He is a comeback kind of person. And I think he is a candidate, as Pro Football Network put today, he's a candidate for Comeback Player of the Year.
Yep.
I think that if he stays healthy, he is someone who can be a Pro Bowl pass rusher. So if he stays healthy, he gets 10-something sacks, he becomes a Pro Bowler. I'm going to cover it saying he's going to take that leap this year.
Got you. Sammy, take us home, Sammy.
I love some of Jason's pick, but I thought it was supposed to be the second-year player.
Yeah, I know. Jason kind of went. Yeah, he got it. Yeah, he kind of went.
Next. Is that it?
I'm not saying you're cheating, but
I'm gonna take
next level.
I'm gonna take Jalen Waddle as the leap.
Okay, fine. Fine.
No, go ahead.
So, I love it.
I get your point, Jason. It's good.
Where you say huge and key, Jalen Phillips should be number 1.
Yeah.
By far. I completely agree with Jason. But sticking to a real point that I thought was supposed to be second.
Get us back on track, Sammy. Get us back on track.
I don't think I remember in my history as a Dolphins fan a player I've cursed more in my lifetime that this player I'm gonna say. I cursed at this guy, looking at him play more than anyone in the history of being a Dolphins fan. But if you say huge, and now with the Dolphins' huge hole at tight end, Julian Hill better be.
Wow! Let's end the show here. Let's end the show.
Huge next season, and I mean huge. They put so much faith in him. If they're trying to make a different scheme by running the ball and having a different emphasis on the tight end, Julian Hill better be huge, and I expect him to be huge, or he should not be in the roster by week 1. So let's put all the faith in Julian Hill, the player I've cursed the most in the history of my fandom history, and let's say he's gonna have a huge season next year. Hopefully, he can put it together. He's said so many times he's one of the strongest Dolphins of all time for his position. Let's say he put it all together. Let's say he doesn't drop the ball, or he doesn't do the stupid penalty that set us back 10 yards on third down. And let's hope that he can find a way to put it together. So my faith is in Julian Hill. Let's say next year he takes a huge step.
Well, I'm sure Dolphin fans will love to hear that name, Julian Hill. Hey,
my
they love him.
first choice. Okay, my first choice was Leon Eichenberg. You know, he wasn't a second-year player.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, but look, they love him in the building.
Just kidding.
There's
I'm just
something there.
kidding.
There's something there. They love Julian Hill. So there's
Yes,
something
they love
there.
him.
So they're seeing something that we're not seeing. Julian Hill penalty machine.
Yes, exactly. But
So
they see something I don't. So
He's going to take a leap forward in the penalties. He's going to take a leap forward.
Right.
I want to mention Isaiah
take
Johnson because somebody in the chat had the Isaiah Johnson.
Yes.
He's another guy. He's intriguing. His length, that he's 6'3". He's a good athlete. I think he's a guy, again, if they go to more press, he's an intriguing option. I've heard his name a lot in camp. He's in his second year now under Anthony Weaver. Really, really good outside corner, elite length. You guys have any thoughts on Isaiah Johnson?
The job is there for one of these. One undrafted free agent is going to probably start, whether it's from last year, this year. Let's see. He's got all the potential in the world. 6'3", good length, obviously. He's got just as good a shot as anyone else.
Yeah. All right, so we went an hour and 25 minutes. Us three in a room is going to be difficult to go less than an hour. We potentially have a show on Wednesday. We have a guest. We're waiting. It's up to him. We're waiting kind of on confirmation on that. So some of you might kind of know who we're talking about. If not, wait on Wednesday if he's available. It's exciting. We're excited to get this person / player on. And so Wednesday, look out for that potentially. If not, we'll be back on next Monday. And again, guys, training camp's ramping up. We got a lot of things in the Fins Faithful podcast. There could be a little new look soon before the season. I'll tease that a little bit. So we got a lot of things lined up, bringing you guys best coverage here, starting with training camp. Thank you guys. We had over 40 people watching. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, like, subscribe, and leave video comments. Tell how much you hate us or like what we said or disagree with this or we don't know what we're talking about. Make sure it's Sammy and Jason, not me. All right, fellas. As always, thanks for joining me tonight. For Sammy, for Jason, for myself. Fins up, fellas. We are out.